You know, if you've walked along the beach, along the Great Lakes, gone fishing or boating, you know that there is another concern on the water, and that is lake levels. Joining us now to talk about what is happening with our water levels is Dave Knight, Great Lakes Ports and Navigation Specialist. Dave, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
It's very interesting because if people, they don't have a large grasp of Great Lakes issues because there are so many, one thing that they can grab onto is the lake levels. They notice it. What's happening?
Well, you're so right. It impacts people's lives in a very visible and obvious way. What's happening is obviously climatic. It's clearly a pattern that is going to extremes that we haven't experienced for a long time. We have seen fluctuations, of course, over the course, many theories, many patterns that there is science to back up. But right now, this is unprecedented in the extreme, the low levels that we're seeing, especially going into this summer season.
Yeah, I was just going to say they just came out and said for 2013 we could be at historic lows come June and July. Let's talk about the impact. How does this impact? Let's first of all talk about recreation.
It truly will impact many people and many communities, maybe more so to the general public than some of the other navigation interests, because a lot of people use the Great Lakes for boating. And getting into the recreational facilities is going to be an issue. Many of them are in small harbors, small communities. Many of them have historically been maintained by the Corps of Engineers, but a constrained budget environment has really reduced their ability to maintain small commercial and recreational harbors. There will be communities, port communities in Michigan and elsewhere in the Great Lakes that will either have extreme limitations or be closed.
So, I mean, when we're talking about, this isn't just affecting boaters, people who want to go on a pleasure cruise. You're talking about small economies that are up and down the Great Lakes along the river.
We've seen every state devote major energy to promoting its Great Lakes economy, and rightly so. It's an unbelievable asset and one that should be maximized. So having put all this effort and this emphasis on the Great Lakes asset and the utilization of it now makes it very, it's a crisis to be able to see that utilization threatened.
So people can relate to that in terms of tourism, but let's talk a little bit about the economic impact with industry and with companies that are all along the water and that are moving goods through the Great Lakes. How does this impact that?
Huge impact. We see the loading, the capacities of vessels that carry materials on the Great Lakes definitely diminished, and every amount of capacity that is lost reduces the efficiency of that mode of transportation.
So basically they have to maybe take off some of their cargo because of the weight of the ship. If you've got lower water levels, you've got to offload some of that and you can't move as much merchandise?
It's called light loading, and as I say, it means more trips to carry the same amount of goods. It's simple economics. It just reduces the efficiency.
So then people at home will say, well, what do we do at this point? Is there anything that we can do to try to change or to navigate our way through this? Obviously, when we're talking about climate change, that's one thing that's a little bit nebulous in terms of how we can control that, but is there anything that people can do or be aware of?
We have to really pay attention to the ability that we have to maintain channels, to do it sustainably, to do dredging and harbor maintenance, use the best technologies and the best ways of maintaining these channels, and really put our attention to a policy that will enable the Corps of Engineers to do what is historically their job.
So it's down to the Army Corps of Engineers who are the ones that are maintaining those thoroughfares then?
They are responsible for maintaining the channels, the federally authorized harbors and channels, and they must have the resources to do that job, especially now in this low water era.
So it all kind of comes back to politics a little bit. So people can talk to the representatives in Washington in terms of getting more funding along that way?
It's essential, and the funding is there. It's just a matter of making sure that the money that is being paid by the industry to maintain these channels through a harbor maintenance trust fund is devoted to that purpose. And that's a huge policy effort that we would love to see move this year to just direct the money where it should be spent.
And again, it's a regional it's a regional issue as well, in terms of trying to get people from the states in the Great Lake Basin to be all on the same page to make sure that that message gets through to Washington.
They must know that this is about quality of life. It's about the regional economy. It's about jobs. It's about really maintaining this region's economic and its stature, its way of life, its integrity.
All right, Dave Knight, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it.